welcome to Cooking with Caitlin. That's me, I'm Caitlin. Today we're going to be making one of my favorites, which is dun 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 pizza Margherita. Alright, so what do we require? Ingredients! For the base, we will need, in more ways than one, 100 grams of strong flour, which has more gluten in it than regular flour, sorry celiacs, allowing for a chewier crust. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of dried yeast, more on this stuff later, and 65 milliliters of water, which weighs, or rather has a mass of very approximately 65 grams. To get all sciencey, if we were to use pure deionized H2O at 4 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature when water is its most dense, 65 milliliters of the clear stuff would weigh exactly 65 grams. And that is one of the bases of the International System of Units, the SI units. Cheers! The tap water where I live is pretty good, so I'm going to be using that. And for optimal results, it should be around body temperature. But why? 2 reasons. First one, yeast is alive. Yeast is a single cell organism and is what allows our dough to rise. It converts the starch in our flour into carbon dioxide, forming gassy bubbles in the dough, and ethanol, but we won't be getting drunk off this pizza. If we use water that is too cold, the yeast will take really long to make the bubbles, meaning we'll have to leave our dough to rest for longer. In contrast, if we use water that is too hot, we'll end up denaturing the enzymes within the yeast, meaning it can't do its thing and we won't get any bubbles whatsoever. The sweet spot happens to be around body temperature. If we try and get our water at body temperature-ish, I wouldn't bother with a thermometer though, we should be all well and good. And although we can kill yeast, it is not an animal, so this recipe remains entirely vegetarian. The second reason for using body temperature water is that dough is less sticky at lower temperatures. So if we use body temperature water, hopefully the other ingredients will lower it enough so our dough isn't too sticky. Ultimately, body temperature water should lead to optimal results all round. And on to the saucy stuff. For the sauce, we will need a can of chopped tomatoes, although we won't be using the whole can. Alternatively, you could use passata, though I enjoy the chunky chopped tomatoey textures. And a little sprinkling of salt. Enhance those flavors. And to top it all off, the toppings we will use are about 1/2 bowl of mozzarella, which is about 60 grams. However, you can use more or less if you wish, although less tends to be more. Contradictions. And basil. Fragrant. A few leaves shall do. If you do not have a basil bush like moi, improvise with some dried basil. If you're feeling extra, you can drizzle on a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, or alternatively, basil infused olive oil. Because there are so few ingredients, I feel that using higher quality produce really does make a difference, especially when it comes to the mozzarella. Branded balls that come in liquid seem to be pretty good. Okie dokie, and for the equipment, apparatus. We can be quite resourceful here, but I'm going to use kitchen scales, a spoon, it's gold because I'm a winner, measuring spoon, specifically the 1/4 teaspoon one and the 1/2 teaspoon one, a mixing bowl, a fork, again mine's gold just to reiterate that I am a winner, a wooden spoon, a tea towel, a pizza pan, oven gloves, a jug to contain extra cheese, a hob, an oven, a plate, and a knife. Again, gold. Okie dokie, so let's go. First thing I want to do, remove jewelry. Should you be wearing any? Bing! Roll up the sleeves. Should you be wearing long sleeves? Wash hands. Let's get to it. Alrighty, my surface is all clean, so let's begin. Grab our scales and drop them down. Measuring bowl. If we zero it now, we won't have to zero it again. Our golden spoon. Strong flour time. Gonna weigh out 100 grams. Oh, it's new, exciting. Spoon it in. 35, 77, 93, 87, 99, 100, oh no, 101 Dalmatians. Let's remove 1 gram if we can. There we go. We can put these scales aside. Recipe calls for 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Let's add this and dump. Now let's take our fork and combine everything. Move that salt around, combine it into the flour, remove any lumps. Add water time. The tap water is pretty good here. It used to be unsafe to drink hot water from the tap in the UK. However, nowadays it is deemed safe enough, and we have a mixer tap, so hopefully it will be good. Just gonna let it get to body temperature-ish. Feels about right. So let's move this out the way. In come the scales again. And on. Here is the warm water, and here is an empty glass. So just zero it. Oh no, I zeroed it twice. Oh. If I switched it on with the glass already there, then I would have only had to push this button once. Lazy hack. So let's try to pour in 65 grams. If we pour it in this weird way, hopefully it will run down the glass, yes, and in. Get to 65. There's a little drip on the side, but let's not worry too much about that. 65. Perfect. These are quite insignificant, so let's ignore them. Let's move the scales out the way again. Oh, getting water everywhere. That will soon evaporate, I'm sure. Bring back the bowl. So we've got our fork in here. Now let's have a whale of a time and make a well in this flour and salt mixture. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's push this over to the side and hope that the walls don't collapse. Let's get our 65 milliliters of body temperature-ish water. Oh yep, that's body temperature. My hands are clean, it's all good, it's all good. Get our measuring spoons. 1/2 teaspoon of yeast, which we will add to our body temperature water. There we go. Nice. Stir this up a little bit. Cloudy. And bring back our bowl. The well held up pretty well. Now let's flood the well. Those little lumpy bits of yeast, let's just get them. Okie dokie, that's fine-ish. Let's take this end of the spoon so that less things stick to it and combine everything together. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Now I feel the need to knead. Put that aside. Sprinkle a little bit of flour on our surface. Woo! It's snowing. It's the summer, but it's snowing. Make sure the sleeves are well and truly rolled up. Let's get kneading. Yep, this is quite sticky. I should have used colder water, I'm telling you. And let's add some more of your flour. Set a timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes, starting now.
I recommend listening to music whilst you do this. Oh no, my sleeve didn't well and truly roll it up. I keep kneading, I keep kneading in love. Oh, I can feel those bonds forming. The gluten's doing its thing. And of course you could use a dough hook to knead this. However, if you want to be strong like the flour, it's best to knead it by hand. Just stretch it, pull it back. Stretch it and pull it back. I need ya, I need ya. I'm gonna be so strong after this. It's important not to add too much flour because That will offset the ratios. Oh, check that out. How much time is left?
You have 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on your 10-minute timer.
Don't feel that you need to knead for the whole 10 minutes. You might be done within 5, or if you're really good, within 3, but I'm just trying to tone my arms. Or arm, because my left arm isn't getting much of a workout. Alright, now that's been 10 minutes, and I think we need to put an end to that. Let's scoop up our little dough ball. So cute. Put it in here. Now let's tuck our little dough ball into bed using the tea towel. Let's leave it for an hour to allow it to grow up. So cute. I'm going to move the dough ball to somewhere warm, remembering that body temperature is optimal for the yeast to do its thing and make the baby grow, the dough ball being the baby. Somewhere fairly warm, I reckon, would be above the boiler. Warm air rises, so it should be a good place. We can tidy up whilst we wait an hour. And now that it's been an hour, we can take our baby dough ball down from above the boiler and see how much it's grown. Exciting! Okay, so here it is, but before we uncover it and see how much it's grown, I think we should preheat the oven. And yes, it really is that time. It's going to be a late pizza. Traditional pizza ovens are very hot, around 500 degrees Celsius. So let's just put our oven on as high as it will go, which seems a little bit wasteful, so perhaps could use the residual heat to cook something else. Whilst we're here, place a rack in the oven as high up to the top as possible. However, I'm not putting mine on the highest one, the second highest level, just so we can film the progress. Let's check on the dough ball. And now for the big reveal, how much has our baby dough ball grown? Let's find out. Oh, they grow up so fast. It's certainly grown a little bit. Before, after. We're going to do a little bit more kneading. Firstly, let's flour the surface again. It's all nice and clean. I cleaned it. Sprinkle, sprinkle, make it snow. Pull back. I recommend just making this recipe so you can feel this. Oh, it feels so cool. Yes. Oh, look at what that yeast has done. All those carbon dioxide bubbles. Beautiful, beautiful. We're just going to knead it for 5 minutes because I love kneading, it would seem. Make sure your hands are clean. Excellent, and that has been 5 minutes. Woo! Righty-ho, now it's time to get the pizza pan. Here we go. The aim is to get the pizza to fill this pan quite well. I like to pinch it from the middle, pull it apart, and make sure the edge is the thickest part. So let's just pull it around. Oh, look, it's see-through. Keep stretching it up to the edge. Thin is good, thin is good. Almost the size of the pan. There we go. Just place it on the pizza pan. Probably stretch it out in the pan itself now. Round and round. Looks pretty good to me. We can move this aside, clean this up, and deal with the sauce. I have my can of chopped tomatoes. Crack it open. Bring my pizza back. Get my spoon. Remember why it's gold. And just spoon on a little bit. If you're not a fan of chunks, you can use passata. I'm just using a few spoonfuls of chopped tomatoes, and there's plenty left in the can. You can keep the remainder of the can for something else, perhaps a soup or a pasta sauce, which is what I'll be doing. However, if you are going to do that, make sure you decant the contents of the can into a metal-free container to ensure that nothing from the open can can get its way into the tomatoes, possibly tainting them, and then shove it in the fridge. Please, can you recycle the can if such recycling facilities exist in your area? If you do not have lovely fresh basil, I would sprinkle on some dried basil as much as you like. I'd go wild. Don't go all the way to the edge, because we need some crust to stay crusty, in my opinion. This is quite tomatoey, so let's just hope it's not too liquidy. Another thing to add is salt. So let's just salt bay ourselves up. This is definitely not the best method. Okay, so that is the sauce done. Things are about to get cheesy. You may have noticed I have some flour left on my hands, and when it comes to handling the cheese, it's probably best if I didn't have flour on my hands, so I'm just going to give them a quick wash now. I'm now flour free, so let's grab the mozzarella ball. I'm going to open it up and transfer it into this jug. It's raining cheese. Hallelujah. Bring our pizza back. Let's use our hands. And about half. That looks half-ish to me. This releases a lot of moisture, and if we don't want our pizza to be too soupy in the middle, it's best to wring that out. So this is kind of disgusting, but we don't want the liquid in there. And drop it on the pizza, nicely and delicately. Wring it out and dump, make it snow. For a pizza margherita, traditionally, I believe it needs to have tomato, mozzarella and basil to represent the colours of the Italian flag. I'm going to rinse my hands now and wipe up that yucky mess. Let's move this aside and bring our basil bush in. Here we go. I love basil, so I'm going to use quite a lot. Just place it on. Now, for aesthetics, I'm going to use a Fibonacci number and also a little nod to Italy there. So Fibonacci number 5. We've got 4. There we go. These will shrivel up a bit in the oven. And move this away. Now it's about to get unusual. Me again. The reason we're going to heat up our pizza on the hob is to achieve a nice charred base. You usually wouldn't be able to achieve that with an oven, or at least in my experience, I've not been able to do that. Instead, we're going to heat up the base of this on the hob directly, and hopefully we'll achieve a nice charred base like the authentic thing. So, let's give that a go. I'm going to put on this ring. It doesn't really matter which ring you use. This one seems quite convenient. Plop this to the side for now and fire on the ring. That blue flame looks hot. I'll put it on medium. Take my oven glove and put this on top here. Can move around. You might start to see the base bubble a little bit. I'm going to turn the heat up ever so much and spin. And there we go, that should be enough, we don't want it to burn. And now that the bottom is nice and crispy, hopefully, we can glove up and put it in the oven. Oven off, and let's take it out. Glove up. First glance. Here we have our pizza. The cheese looks quite well done. I ended up putting my pizza margherita in the oven for about 9 minutes. But in retrospect, I think slightly less time may have yielded better results. But I'm not complaining because my pizza is pretty nice. Adjust this. Here we have a slice of our pizza. Because I'm a little bit extra, and because I love basil, I'm just going to spread the love with a little drizzle of basil infused olive oil. Buon appetito! Taste test! Okay, so here is a slice of our pizza. Let's see how we did. It's certainly very thin. How are we for the crust? Looks quite chewy. Hopefully that's the extra gluten in the strong flour doing its thing. And how are we for the base? Check that out. And most importantly, how does it taste? No. Yeah, I think, I enjoy this. But would you try making this recipe and let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful day, and if you have any video suggestions in mind, could you please be so kind as to let me know in the comment section below. If you would like to watch my previous video, please click. Whoa, this is my first video, so I don't have any previous videos. Shame. Anyway, ciao for now. Check this out. Nice and chewy. Nice and chewy. Check out that char. Crisp Bay. My unconventional Hove method works.